Welcome to TYMAR.
Hello and welcome back to Two Yellows Make a Red. Joining me on today's pod are Andrew, Scott and Ryan. And we're going to be discussing the Scotland Euro 2020 squad. It feels strange saying that after 23 long years. We actually had the excitement of waiting for a squad announcement. So I will just run through the squad first and foremost before we get into the meat of things. So the goalkeepers, Craig Gordon, David Marshall, John McLaughlin. Defenders, Andy Robertson, Grant Hanley, Scott McKenna, Kieran Tierney, Stephen O'Donnell, Declan Gallagher, Liam Cooper, Jack Hendry, Greg Taylor and Nathan Patterson. And the midfielders, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Stuart Armstrong, Scott McTominay, John Fleck, Billy Gilmore and David Turnbull. And then the forwards, James Forrest, Ryan Christie, Ryan Fraser, Lyndon Dykes, Shea Adams and Kevin Nisbet. Scott, what was your reaction to the squad? Are you happy with the 26 announced?
I would say I'm kind of glad that he did use the extra few places to bring in and blood some younger players that have been in under 21s, which a lot of people have been going on about Billy Gilmore for a couple of seasons now, the fact that he's getting game time at Chelsea. So I think that was a good call. Turnbull as well was doing really well in a really poor Celtic team this season. So I think that just shows that he's clearly got the talent that he was meant to have when he was at Motherwell. And I was a little bit surprised, I have to say, with Nathan Patterson, purely just because I'm not saying that he's not talented. I'm just saying the fact that he played I think he started 7 times this season, and it was all mainly after Christmas. So he's done well in them games, and he scored after, 15 seconds of coming on in the Europa League tie against Antwerp. But yeah, I think Liam Palmer will find that he's very unlucky to miss out due to that call-up, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were saying that they were gutted for Andy Considine as well. And I kind of get that because he'd had that story of being called up at for his first camp, but I feel like Palmer's been in it for the whole campaign. So it's in a way it's probably even harder for him because he probably thought his place was fairly safe.
Yeah, I mean, Palmer, I'm pretty certain, I'm sure I read that Palmer's not missed a squad unless injured since 2015 or something like that.
I think his debut, I might be wrong, I think his debut for Scotland was the 3-0 defeat in Kazakhstan under McLeish. I'm pretty sure.
Right, I thought he was capped before then, but yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it's maybe double or possibly even triple galling for him, the fact that he was obviously in a relegated side and got cut, but then John Fleck obviously got relegated with Sheffield United was included. I don't really have much reaction to the squad other than it was pretty much the 26 I would expect. But John Fleck really surprised me. He's not had a particularly good season. I mean, off the top of my head, Kenny McLean for one. Quite a few more players more deserving than him. He was the only one that surprised me.
I think I would probably agree with you, Ryan. I think John Fleck probably finds himself going to the Euros because of McLean and Ryan Jack being injured. I think you might also say that maybe about Turnbull might have been, because I think Billy Gilmore probably was looking more likely to get picked because he was playing for Chelsea. I think Turnbull might have missed out if McLean and Ryan Jack were both fit. I think it might have been Fleck and Turnbull that might have missed out. But I am gutted for all the guys that are injured that have been through the campaign and now can't go to the major tournament at the end of it. But
apart from McBurney.
Less said about him, the better.
Is he in jail yet? Can you call somebody up from Barlini?
I get me for a couple of weeks.
I mean, I'm sure if there was a way Steve Clark would, because that man definitely has dirt on him.
That's true. I think I feel like the goalkeepers were the most set. Like those are the 3 goalkeepers that have been in the squad for a long time. I saw some people maybe throw Xander Clark's name out there.
I also seen Liam Kelly's name get mentioned as well for having a good
Yeah.
6 months.
I was going to bring up taking out John McLaughlin and bringing in Xander Clark. Pure as the fact that the guy
Is a goal threat.
is a goal threat, those headers, and he's just come off the back of winning a double cup,
And
2 cups in 2 hands.
he played brilliantly again in the cup final.
Yeah, so aye. So I don't know how you can not include him in a squad.
Has McLaughlin played much this season?
He's played us. I think he played 12 times this season, and it was all at the start of the season because McGregor was injured.
Yeah.
But in then 12 games, he kept like 9 clean sheets, I think. So he still played well, but Rangers didn't concede many anyway.
I can see why you maybe with the goalkeepers, if you've got a settled trio, you just kind of stick with them. But I'd like to think that post Euros, Clark will give somebody like Xander Clark or somebody in form a call up, especially because Marshall and or Gordon might pack it in after the Euros. They might wait 1 more year for the World Cup, but they're not going to be around forever. They're both in their late 30s.
No.
Yeah.
I know you guys are obviously talking about like looking to the future, and rightfully so. Just a thing that I've seen a few folks saying is, especially after the season he's had, what about McGregor? I know he's obviously retired, but like he's just won Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I think that was down to him. If he wanted to come back, I think they probably would have accepted him to come back, but he's clearly not bothered. I've also heard that really, if he wants to keep playing for Rangers, he probably needs the summers off now and doesn't need international games because he's now, 39? And if he's to play even more games, I know he wasn't necessarily busy every game for Rangers, but he still needs to keep himself in pretty fresh and in good condition. So he's probably just went, look, I'm wanting the summer to just recuperate and go again for Europe.
I do feel so I was just saying, I think if Steve Clark was to approach McGregor, though, if he had approached him, I think McGregor would have said yes. It's the fact he didn't approach him that a lot of people are questioning. Why not? He did it with Scott Brown, remember? He approached Scott Brown to come back from retirement. So
I'll go lie, I'm kind of glad that he said no. Because
Scott Brown or McGregor?
He's no done, but I think he's done international level. I think he can still get away with doing a job in the top flight in Scotland, but I do think that he's done for internationals now.
Scott Brown.
You mean Brown, Scott, yeah?
Who did I say?
I don't know.
Well, we didn't know if you meant Brown or McGregor.
That's what I was going to say. We were talking about Scott Brown, so I don't know.
Yeah, you meant Scott Brown.
Yeah, I think if Davy Marshall had his heroics against Serbia or whatever, then there might be more acclaiming for it. And I suppose the only other thing is, like, I don't know if some people would accept having him back, obviously, the whole thing with him and Ferguson. But it's definitely an interesting
he hasn't played since then, has he?
Yeah, that was years ago. That was like 2009. He's come back and played the majority of his games since then. He was our first choice goalkeeper for a few years anyway. Certainly one of the Nations League campaigns, he was the reason that we beat Israel. I think it's just he's retired, and if he, like you say, Scott, if he'd wanted to come back, I think he probably could have done, but him and Clark, neither of them picked up the phone, so we've got the 3 we do, I guess. Yeah. The player who I think is missing from the squad, and even though he's had a poor season, I think the one player that we should be taking in aren't is Lee Griffiths, because I think that Clark has picked the squad based on form, and like I'm fine with that. But like I just think if there's 10 minutes to go in the last group game against Croatia and we need a goal, I don't see a lot of people on that bench that can bail us out. But after what Lee Griffiths did against England those years ago, I just feel like we need someone like that in the squad in the Euros. A 26-man squad, if anybody was worth a gamble, it was Lee Griffiths.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of people saying that as well, that there's going to be at some point in these 3 games, we're looking for a goal late on, and he is your natural goal scorer out of them all that would probably create something out of nothing, whether it's with a free kick or just a shot for a stupid angle that probably finds the top corner. Yeah, he probably was. I still think it's just, I think Clark has been loyal with who he's picked and just went with guys in form. But what I will say is, though, if one of them guys that are in the forwards section gets injured, he's allowed to call up anybody until the night before our first game. So if one of them get injured in training or in one of the warm-up games, then he probably, and you would like to think, is the first call-up.
Yeah.
If it's a forward.
One other thing about that is the fact that he's only taking 3 strikers or recognised strikers. So,
but to be honest, how often do we play with 2 up front?
No, I know. We only play 1 up front, but in the off chance that he decides tactically he needs 2 up front, he's leaving himself really quite short. And then, as you say, if one of them gets injured in the competition, then again you're relying on a James Forrest to play up front or
Ryan Fraser. So yeah, I would agree. I think Lee Griffiths should definitely have came, and I would have taken one of the midfielders out. I would have taken John Flecker. I would have dropped Greg Taylor.
You're actually running low on midfielders if you were to take somebody like Flecker, because we've not actually got that many midfielders if they were to get injured.
I mean, this really hurts to say after like what we've been saying he did against England, but I think Lee Griffiths is damaged goods at this point, and you're saying about needing a goal with 10 minutes to go. If say Griffiths and Nisbet are on the bench, I'm taking Nisbet at the moment all day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing against taking Nisbet. I just think that sometimes you need that bit of magic to bail you out. I'd love to be proven wrong. I think obviously I could see a situation where you throw Nisbet on and he can grab a goal, but I agree with Scott. If you're not able to break down a defence, Griffiths is one of the few Scotland players that will pop it in the top peg from 25 yards. With no,
Like 80th minute, you've got a free kick on the edge of the box, and you've got Lee Griffiths sitting on the bench. 100% you're taking somebody off, and you're bringing him on because you know he's probably going to find the back of it.
Nah, mate, he's leaving it to Callum McGregor.
Or he's doing that.
I get entirely why he's not going. Entirely justified not to pick him because he has his off-field problems, and he's been poor. Like, he's probably epitomised Celtic's season. I just think that with the extra 26 men, I just don't see why somebody like Greg Taylor's going. Like, you could argue it's for cover at left back if you're treating Tierney as a centre back, but
that is the only reason he is in that squad, is the fact that they're classing Tierney as a centre back, and I think that's purely down to the fact that they're now. Clark has came out and said that McTominay is a midfielder for the tournament. So yeah. I think that he's moved Tierney into centre back. And do you not remember when we played in Israel in March? Yeah. We moved at half time to a back 4, and Tierney was still a centre back in the back 4. So he clearly thinks he can still play in a 2 of a back 4 or a 3. So I think he's just gone Tierney. The only reason Tierney would be at left back is if Taylor and Robertson were injured.
Talking of exclusions, Ryan Gold, what does the boy need to do to get a call up to the Scotland squad?
I found that a little bit strange, but at the same time, I just purely think that I don't think that anybody's really kept tabs on him other than they'll keep tabs on when he gets a Man of the Match award. I genuinely think that Clark has said that he had guys watching him, and he says, look, I prefer I would have been out there watching him, but he says, look, we can still, with today's technology, watch his games. But they still just, I don't know, they claimed that he was doing good in a really bad team, but I would say that that's even better than that he's doing this in a really poor team. But yeah, it's...
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, just going off that point there, weren't Oostend having a bad season as well in the Belgian league?
I'm not sure how they got on, actually. I've not checked.
Either, but I've not seen any headlines about it.
I know that Jack Hendry's been getting rave reviews from Belgian press about how well he's played.
Because I was going to make the point about the fact that it's a Portuguese league, and any league outside of kind of the top 5 and a couple other ones gets ignored, but obviously not if Jack Hendry's getting called up from Oostend. Yeah. So I mean, Ryan Gold's had a season of his life, and you're right, the team that he's playing with haven't had a great season, but he's standing out, and he's had, I think it was 13 man of the matches this season.
Yeah, and he just got Player of the Month for April as well.
So, you know, I don't get it.
Ugh,
The only other counter argument against it is the fact that, you know, midfield is already stacked. So,
I think it genuinely is. If he was a striker, I think he was in the squad.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he's a number 10 and we like playing John McGinn in that sort of 8-10 role, and also we've got likes of Turnbull in the squad, Armstrong in the squad, Ryan Christie in the squad as well. I think he's just genuinely unlucky that that he's missed out. I would like to see him called up in September to give him a shot and see how he gets on. So our next topic we're going to discuss is what we would go with as our starting 11 for the first game, which is Monday the 15th against the Czech Republic, which you would probably say is our most realistic game of getting up something from, if not winning it, as we beat them. We beat them twice in the latest Nations League group, but one of them obviously was when they had COVID problems, but we still beat them at home when they had a full strength team. So I think we go in with good belief that we can get something from the game. I'm going to go ahead and say what I would start with as an 11, and then see if you guys have got similar or and then different. So straight away, I'm going to sit on the fence that in goals, I'm torn between whether I stick with Marshall or stick Craig Gordon, and purely the fact that obviously Marshall, it's the story I'm getting us here with the penalty save, but at the same time, in the last couple of games, he's actually made a couple of mistakes, and you start to go and it only takes one mistake and you could be 1-0 down and you lose the game 1-0. So, and Craig Gordon has been very reliable his whole career for Scotland, I would say. So I'm not really fussed who he picks out of them two, but I do think he might go with Craig Gordon. But yeah, I would have a back. I'm going to call it a back five just because we are more set up defensively under Clark. And I would go with Stephen O'Donnell at right wing back. Again, Mr. Consistent, I would say, in the latest Nations League. And he actually played a lot better than he had been playing as well. My three centre backs, I would go with Jack Hendry, Grant Hanley, and Kieran Tierney. Purely down to the fact that that was the three that they went with in the last couple of games. I know they took Hendry off against Israel, but I still think that's likely to be the three, and that's the three I would go with. And obviously, you've got Andy Robertson at left back. The captain, you're not going to see him not in the team during this Euros unless he does pick up an injury. I'm changing the formation purely because I want to see this formation, and I'm going with a 5-3-2. So my three in midfield is McTominay, who can sit that little bit deeper and get the ball off the centre-backs if needed. I'm throwing in Billy Gilmore straight away to start. I just think he can't be playing... What is it? He started 5 times in the last 7 for Chelsea, and in its games against Man City and Arsenal, if you're starting them games, you're clearly a good player, and I think he's better than what we've got currently in the squad. So I would chuck him straight in, and then I would have Super Joe McGinn in midfield as well. The boy's just unbelievable in a Scotland strip, so I would chuck him in. And then my 2 up front, I'm going with the 2 strikers, Che Adams and Lyndon Dykes. I think, why not just have a go in the first game? And I know some people would go, oh yeah, but if you lose, that's your tournament. You're off to a bad start and you're struggling because technically it's the 2 tougher teams after that. But why not? We're at home, have a go. See if we can score a couple of goals and put the pressure on Czech Republic, because technically, we are meant to be the least favourites in that group, even though we're at home for a couple of games. So that's the 11 I would go with.
I had the exact same 11. The only thing I will say is I have David Marshall in goals. I know that he was probably at fault for the Israel game, for the goal conceded there. And I know that he hasn't necessarily started every game for Derby, but he has earned the right to start the first game at the Euros with his performances across the board over the last few years. I do think that Steve Clarke will try one of Gordon and Marshall in the two running friendly games in the build-up against Luxembourg and the Netherlands. Mid defence, yeah, I agree. I think he'll play that back three because that's the back three that are in form in terms of centre backs. I think Billy Gilmour starts if he's good enough. Like, he plain and simple, he's a quality player. I think you could throw him in that side and he would take it like a duck to water. And I think you need to go two up front because I agree. I think if we sit back against the Czech Republic, we'll only do ourselves in. Yeah, so I have that exact same setup. My fear is that I know he's Mr. Reliable and he puts in a shift. I think the weak point in the team is Stephen O'Donnell. I don't think he's good enough for the Euros, but I'll give him a start. I think he should play. But I think he's the player that, if I was the opposition, I'd be avoiding going down the left-hand side or the right-hand side for you with Robbo and Tierney in defence, and I would be going all guns down the left because I think O'Donnell's the weak point.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think, the word we've all used at different stages when it comes to Clarke and Scotland is loyalty. So yeah, I think regardless of what's happened, like, Marshall's pretty much nailed on to start for me. I guess the only thing I would question is, and I very much doubt they would change it because, again, Clarke's very stuck in his ways. But I was looking at the Czech squads in the last few games they've played, and they're nearly always just one up front, which to me, you don't need three centre backs marking one striker. You can play a back four. I don't think we will, but I'm just saying, you definitely could.
That might work to advantage with the wing backs, though, in that it could become very versatile if we're able to then. We could go into a 3-5-2 if we were playing that system.
I think it's
and
also...
we were getting a lot more...
Yeah, I think it also, this back three, it allows Tierney to bomb forward sometimes because he's still got two other centre-halves to cover him if he was to be caught in possession, and it allows him to get bomb forward, get balls into the box to whether it's Adams or Dykes or both, and it gives us just that extra body going forward, I suppose. And I think the easiest way to dissect his role, I would say, is remember when Sheffield United just came up to the Premier League and nobody knew how they were playing because they had two centre backs running up and down playing a back five, and nobody knew who they were having to pick up. So if we've got Tierney doing that, they've got to worry about both Robertson and Tierney running at them down the left. So is it Kufa that plays right back for Czech Republic?
Yeah, normally.
I mean, he's a good right back, but even him's going to go, Christ, I've got two of the best left backs currently in Europe running at me. I need somebody to come over, and that should drag somebody else out of position to then leave maybe a midfielder like McGinn free.
Same reason that, like you're saying, in spite of himself, he will start O'Donnell. I just can't see him actually starting Gilmour. The same thing with Patterson. And I agree with everything you're saying about the big games he's played, but I cannot see Clarke throwing him in at the deep end. I just cannot see it.
I mean, this I did say that this is what I would start, and I know it's not going to be what Clarke goes with, but that's the team I would go with. I do think he will just go with one of the strikers, and it'll probably be Ryan Christie. Probably plays in behind one of them, but I just think that Gilmour has shown in the games he's played for Chelsea that the boy has talent and he's a confident player. You can he's demanding the ball off the likes of Jorginho, Kovacic, Rudiger. He's demanding the ball and he's wanting the ball in tight spaces. And if you've got a boy in midfield doing that in the Premier League at the top level, and he's going to be in a Champions League final next weekend,
yeah,
I think.
I get what you're saying about Steve Clarke, but Steve Clarke also doesn't strike me as the type of manager that's going to give three young boys a call up just so they can have a nice summer holiday. He said everyone in the squad is starting on an even footing.
Yeah.
And I feel like every player he's called up, he must at least be considering playing. I don't think there's a player he'd call up that he's not willing to put in that team. I think he probably will. I agree. I think he's more likely to start players that have more international caps and that he's seen play more. But what I'd be very interested to see is if he starts Gilmore in the friendlies, and that'll give Gilmore a chance, and also will tell you if he's seriously considering him for the tournament start.
I think most managers going into major tournaments would be silly to go, I'm picking a 23 or 26 man squad, but only 20 of them are able to play. Like 6 of them I don't trust. Why you would even pick them? You've surely, because what if you get run into injuries or you need somebody for a certain position during a game and you can't even turn to your bench and go, they trust you. Like, you've got to be able to have some sort of trust in every single one of them to do a job for them.
I think it's the thing that's interesting me is that he's called up Fraser and Forrest, so that opens up, like Ryan was saying, at 4 at the back. It does open up the possibility of playing, say, a 4-3-3 in both of those, either side of Lyndon Dykes or whoever up top. Because if we're playing a 3-5-2 and James Forrest is on the pitch, or a 5-3-2, I don't really get how he fits into that. So, and he was a very good form player for Scotland before his injury. So, I wonder if Clark is thinking he might have to play different systems against different teams.
It definitely needs to have different personnel for different games. Just purely at the fact I would have a go more in this game. I'm not saying be conservative against England, but I'm just saying you certainly need to be more aware of certainly their attacking threat. I think they're able to, you can have a go at England. I don't think they're great at the back, and they've not got great keepers, I don't think, either. But yeah, going forward is the only problem I have with England in that game is just they have such good options to go with.
Yeah. Sorry, but like,
and then Croatia.
The idea of Sancho, Foden, Sterling, or Rashford up against Stephen O'Donnell is giving me heart palpitations.
Well, and Harry Kane.
No, the Gary.
So, I mean, obviously, as the manager, as Clark will say, he's more focused on Czech Republic because that's his first game. But I think you've got to definitely look for different personnel for each game. I'd heard somebody saying that they would actually throw Nathan Patterson into this game because if you have a go, he's a much more athletic and mobile right back than O'Donnell is. And then you play O'Donnell against England because he's more of a conservative player. I've heard that being mentioned as well. So
Patterson's a better player, like in general. He's just more talented. Ryan, would you play him?
There's different ways to obviously win a World Cup.
Well, this is
you
Europe.
Can be. Nah, but like some teams, obviously, they play the flowing football and just like score goals, and others just kind of like they're far more defensively sound and like have success that way. So I mean, as you guys are saying, it just depends how they want to play in the different games. If you're having a go, then yeah, I'd say Patterson's the more attacking option, the more exciting option. But if you're going a bit more defensively solid, a bit more conservatively, then O'Donnell probably plays.
The key selection for me that I'm interested in is the midfield because that'll tell you a lot about how we're set up. If you pick someone like John Fleck, then you know that he's expecting to sit back and he needs somebody that can break up the play. Is where if he plays maybe like a McGregor or a Gilmore, then you're expecting to have more possession and being recycling the play forward quicker. So he might try. I'm interested to see who he plays against the Netherlands because that's a game where you're not going to have most of the ball. So how ambitious is he going to be in terms of getting the ball back? And the only question mark that I have against Billy Gilmore is, can he do the dirty work in front of the back four that Ryan Jack was doing so well for us? Or is that where John Fleck comes into it? I know he hasn't, Sheffield United haven't been great, and I know John Fleck hasn't been great, but do we need someone that can? Because I think Ryan Jack is a massive miss. He was such a good option for Scotland. He didn't start every game, but the job he does for Rangers, there's not really anyone that can do that job. So I think that is another thing I'd throw in there.
I think
he replaces Ryan Jack specifically in the way he plays.
No, I just think that I think Scott McTominay is going to play that sort of role that you're trying to describe, with breaking up play and then getting the ball and moving us forward. I think he's going to be asked a lot, actually, but you've seen him do it for Man United. He gets about the place, he flies into tackles, and he plays for the badge. So I think McTominay is going to be the one that sits and is to control sort of that area just in front of the back, 3, 4, whatever we go with, and is going to play that sort of Ryan Jack role and sweep up everything. And then I think it's a Billy Gilmore or a Callum McGregor beside a John McGinn to push us forward and try and break through the lines and get support to whoever we play in the forward areas.
So I guess that brings us round then to the key burning question, which is, what are our chances? Well, could we actually get out of the group?
I'm going to... there's no point being pessimistic. I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to say that we'll get 4 points out of this group, and we'll go through as probably the third place, but one of the better thirds, if you get what I mean. Because there's 4 third places out of the 8 groups. Is it 8 groups? It is 8 groups.
I think so, yeah.
It's 4 of them are going through, and I just think we will beat Czech Republic, whether it's 1-0, 2-1. I think it'll be a close game, and I just have a feeling we're going to nick someone off England. I genuinely think we're going to get a draw at Wembley, and then for some reason we'll go in with so much confidence we'll probably get beat for Croatia in the last game. But so long as it's not a heavy defeat, we probably go through as the best third.
I'm definitely envisaging a scenario where we are sitting as the 4th best third place team, if that makes sense. And there's like one set of group games to go, and we're just sitting there like shiting ourselves for like the full 90 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I mean that is just peak Scotland in my head, like.
And then it's probably I don't know what groups are playing after us like a day later, but it'll be somebody scores a 90th minute winner and we go out by a goal.
Yeah.
But we'll try and be positive, I suppose.
Yeah, I think we can beat the Czech Republic, and I'm expecting us to lose the other 2. And I'm not being pessimistic. I just think they'll beat us.
I mean, on paper, we should be losing the other 2 games, just on personnel alone. I mean, we do have a good squad, but they 2 have got special players in certain positions that just can hurt you. And I mean, I don't think we've got 1 or 2 that are just like special. I think we've just got some very good players who just work well as a team.
Yeah. Ryan was saying it would be his peak Scotland situation. I'm saying peak Scotland situation is lose to Czech Republic,
beat England,
concede a spawny last-minute equaliser against England, and then have to beat Croatia in the last game. That's the one thing. My prediction for the Euros is, and I would like put the house on it. John McGinn is scoring at Wembley, guaranteed.
I see that.
There are some players that are written for certain moments, and John McGinn, like I was saying to my dad, and he was agreeing. John McGinn is that like Kenny Dalglish, Gordon Strachan like mid guy that just turns up in the right place at the right time with the big goal.
Yeah. I also, I don't know what I've also had that feeling about Scott McTominay scoring at Wembley. This season he scored a good 5 or 6 goals. Am I not right, Ryan? He went through a phase.
It was his best goal scoring season ever. Actually, I'm sure he got maybe 7.
And he
has 9 goals for United.
He was getting some like belters as well, like well hit strikes, and I've just can envisage one dropping to him at the edge of the box and just smashing it into the bottom corner. Whether it's to win the game or no, I don't know. But I could see one of McGinn or McTominay scoring, and yeah, I hope we get a positive result at Wembley just because it's England.
We have nothing to lose. I think that's the kind of takeaway point.
All the pressure is on them. All the pressure.
It's our first tournament in 23 years. We have nothing to lose. If we get gubbed in all 3 games, I'm still going to enjoy it. Like, I'm still going to enjoy watching us at a tournament. I'm going to have a few beers, and I'm going to soak it all in because I'm not going to take it for granted.
I mean, I've already over here. There's got like Dutch guys that I work with and that I know over here who straight away have said, "Yeah, I'm supporting Scotland when the Netherlands aren't playing," like because they've not seen Scotland for so long, and probably not in their lifetime either at a major tournament, and so they're going, "No, we're pleased for you," and they're also supporting them, especially when they're against England. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on.
Okay, so you've heard our 2 cents about what we think for the Scotland squad selected for the Euros and how we think they're going to get on. If you have any players that you think should have been called up that weren't, drop a comment below. Remember to like and subscribe. And otherwise, we'll see you at the next one.